I'm giving myself 1 year to make $1 million, and if I fail, I'm shutting down everything. That includes my YouTube channel, the Obsidian Council, all of it. All of it gets shut down if in a year I haven't made at least $1 million. I'm giving myself zero room for failure over the next 12 months to ensure I push as hard as physically possible on every opportunity currently available. And that's because I believe right now we're at one of the most exciting periods in history when it comes to building wealth that there's ever been. And I want to make sure that I don't waste that opportunity by being lazy or just kind of counting on my past successes to carry me through. And to be very specific, I have until May 1st, 2027 to pull this off. And I have a couple different routes that I'm planning on taking to try to get me past that $1 million goal. And this $1 million goal is above and beyond anything I've made up to this point. Okay, so back in the day, I had my 1 million goal. I made $1 million, but none of that money actually counts towards this goal. It's as if effectively I'm starting from zero and really pushing that over the next year, I'm going to make another $1 million given the opportunities that are at hand. And I'm approaching this from 3 different angles. The first angle is the one that you guys are the most familiar with, and that's investing in the crypto market. So that's investing in all the projects that I've been talking about over the last year and expecting that the markets are going to bounce back, especially later into this year and into 2027. And in this video, I'm gonna be diving into the projects I'm holding, where I'm kind of placing my bets when it comes to this $1 million goal, and just doing kind of a brief update on some of these projects. But I'm not just putting all my eggs in that one basket, because this is obviously really high stakes for me. And so the second route that I'm taking to try to get me to this $1 million goal is Polymarket and various strategies around investing on Polymarket. And over the past couple weeks, I actually went and downloaded the entire history of like all markets on Polymarket from the very beginning of Polymarket's existence until today. And I've been back testing a lot of different ideas and strategies based on that data on what works and what doesn't when it comes to making money on Polymarket. And the third route that I'm taking is probably the one that excites me the most, but it's also the one that's disappointed me the most and proven to be so far the most difficult to actually get anything done with. And that's a project that I've been working on for the last 1.5 years that I'm going to get into a little bit later in this video. Okay, first off, I'm going to dive into the alts that I'm betting on currently. And I'm going to make this really, really brief because I talk about this already a ton. That's going to be projects like Research Hub, RSC, Infra, which is just a really tiny AI bet, Avo, which is another really tiny AI bet. And then the one I really wanted to kind of dive in a little bit today and highlight what they're doing is Una. Una has been really flying under the radar and doing quite a bit of building in this downtime. And recently they announced an expansion called Records. And as they describe it, Records is the first AI infrastructure for IP growth built on Base. And Una has some top tier partners when it comes to launching Records, including Pudgy Penguins, Doodles, Moonbirds, Claynosaurs, and some of the top brands in the NFT sector. And this is Giphy growth for the Persona IP over the last 6 months. And you can see Persona is absolutely dominating all other brands across Giphy with 774% growth over the last 6 months combined. And they're doing this starting with NFTs, which is why they have a lot of these top tier NFT partners. And last week they did a demo for me and kind of walked me through the platform. And one of the things they showed me was this NFT, this Pudgy Penguin NFT that on Giphy has over 2 billion views. But traditionally, typically, if you were to go buy this NFT, you wouldn't necessarily know that. You'd have no way to connect that this NFT is actually a pretty famous NFT. It, to you, would just kind of appear like any other Pudgy Penguins NFT. Records built a history and like a legacy for these NFTs where somebody going to buy that NFT with Records history enabled would see that this NFT has over 2 billion views on Giphy, and that would add to the value or the story around that NFT. And that's just kind of scratching the surface. And NFTs is really just the starting point for what Records could be. You can imagine in a world where it's really easy to make this top tier cinematic content using AI generated, videos, etc. A lot of brands will want a way to tie in their brand into this user generated content universe. For example, imagine if Pokemon wanted to run a big campaign for their new upcoming game, and they encourage fans to go make user generated movies, videos, etc., cinematic live action trailers, or whatever. Records provides all the infrastructure to be able to do that. It uses AI to categorize the top creators, the top content, the content that's getting the most reach or achieving that brand's goals or for whatever they're looking for, and basically allows these IPs to run these campaigns with user-generated content universes outside of the normal brand's IP. There's a lot more to it than that. In a future video, I'll get into all of the details. I mostly just wanted to highlight that during the last 5 months when prices are still down, there's a lot of brands that are out there still building and they're still pushing the frontier. And I think Unagi is one of those teams that I just feel like it's inevitable at some point that you're going to see this team succeed. And when that happens, I think you're going to see a violent repricing of the UNA token because it is valued so lowly. Obviously, I hold some other tokens. I'm not going to get into all the details on that because I said I was going to make it quick. But that's kind of in a nutshell. My altcoin strategy really is determined by macro and altcoin conditions going into the later half of 2026 and 2027. A lot of videos touching on that and kind of what I believe. I'm happy to dive into that in a future video if people want more explanation into that and that part of my strategy. The second part of my strategy, as I mentioned, is Polymarket. And I like Polymarket as a second leg of my strategy because Polymarket is agnostic to the crypto markets, macro, etc. It is just overall a betting market on a lot of different random things that isn't necessarily just tied to crypto. So if I was wrong about crypto and crypto didn't end up doing well going into late 2026, 2027, this strategy could still pull through and help me get to my $1 million goal. And obviously there's a lot of stuff on Polymarket and a lot of like crazy stuff on Polymarket. From this market with over $58 million in betting volume, betting will Jesus return in 2027, to of course, lots of sports markets, lots of markets on crypto, markets on macro, finance, and everything else in between. There's just an absurd amount of opportunity on Polymarket. And as you can see, some of these people have made $22 million, $16 million, $12 million trading against these markets. So my gut tells me there is a ton of opportunity. But from what I've seen, I've gone on X and I've gone through a lot of the people or viral threads where it's like, oh, I turned $4,000 into a couple million, or I did this to make a life-changing amount of money on Polymarket. I've gone through a lot of those threads, and kind of the commonality between all those people is they exploited typically some sort of latency issue. And so a lot of the people that have made those life-changing $4,000 to a couple $1 million have all been focusing on latency. So there's one guy that he noticed that he could get his sports broadcast like a couple seconds quicker than the data updated on Polymarket. And he was able to use that to automate a strategy where he ended up making a ton of money on Polymarket because he had that couple second head start. There's another guy that did the same thing with weather where he got a little bit faster, a little bit better data before Polymarket updated. And he's able to use that to exploit the market and basically make a ton of money betting on the weather. Those aren't really strategies that I feel like I would do great at, or that I really even feel like there's probably a lot of edge to exploit on, just because there's so many really sophisticated actors that are already doing strategies like that. So I've been looking for new and different types of strategies on Polymarket that maybe people aren't paying as much attention to. Trying to break these things down from kind of a first principles viewpoint of like what actually creates opportunity on Polymarket. This is one example of what I think is an opportunity on Polymarket where right now the odds of a rate cut in 2026 for 4 or more rate cuts is actually at 3%. Which I think you'll see this number go quite a bit higher later into the year. There's just a lot of fear because of the oil spike and the whole conflict in Iran right now. But what a lot of people don't know about Polymarket is you can trade in and out of these markets at any given time, meaning I could place a bet, yes, that it'll be 4 or more without actually believing that we're going to hit 4 or more rate cuts in 2026. And then when the fear from all the oil, et cetera, goes away, you should see the odds of 4 cuts go up from 3% to maybe 9% or 12% or 15% or, whatever. Again, I don't think necessarily that's going to happen. But when it does go up, let's say it went up to 15%, I could then sell at 15% and take a profit before this market actually ends. And so you can jump in and out of markets before they finalize. And that's another opportunity to make money on Polymarket. And that's just one example. And I know there's probably countless, probably thousands of different ways and strategies that you can deploy on Polymarket. And so what I ended up doing is I downloaded the entire history of Polymarket's markets. So like from the start all the way until today, every single market and the history of how that played out. I downloaded that, created an entire database, like backtesting database, and have been systematically going through that data using AI to try to identify the top opportunities by backtesting that data and then shadow testing that data against the real market, liquidity conditions, executability, etc. And then once I find a strategy that passes all of that, I paper trade it forward just to make sure it'll work in practice before actually deploying any capital. And so far, I have found quite a few really interesting and intriguing strategies that gets me excited about where this strategy could go over the next 12 months. Obviously, I'm in the really early starting phases of this. I started this just a couple weeks ago, but I'm pretty excited about what it could potentially yield. And my final Hail Mary wildcard bet is something I've been working on for a year and a half. And as I've mentioned, this has been the number one cause of like all my stress over the last year and a half, all my headaches, and just so much work. And it's just been by and far one of the single hardest things I've ever done. And that is a year and a half ago, I set out to try to build my own custom architecture to try to better predict markets, and specifically to try to better predict the price of Bitcoin and whether any given hour it would go up or down. The reality is you actually don't have to have that high of accuracy to make an absolute fortune investing in the markets. In fact, if you could achieve just 65% accuracy, you could make mind-blowing amounts of money investing in the market. If you could achieve 75% accuracy, you literally have a money printer on your hands. 85% accuracy is like the most mind-blowing thing you could possibly imagine. A lot of times when we see all these indicators and these people on X and stuff, you're assuming they're like 90% accurate. But in reality, like most people are like 55% accurate when it comes to their investing. Like it's just really hard to get above that threshold. And a lot of people have tried to use AI, traditional transformer models, to try to kind of break past this number. And my thought process when I first started this was, the best of the best have already tried to use transformer models to predict the market, to try to find edge on the market. And so coming at that problem the same way is very unlikely to yield any sort of like positive result. And I had personally already tried things like this. I'd taken Claude, I'd taken GBT and all these different models. I've loaded all sorts of data. I paid like 10 grand for access to like all the top tier data in the market. I'd already like built out this whole system, had an AI run through it, and I couldn't really find any edge that would hold. I built my own custom light GBM model, and it did yield surprisingly decent results, but I still couldn't get to where I wanted to get to. And that's when I came up with kind of a crazy sort of side project, side quest of what if I built my own custom model, like from scratch? What if I came up with my own custom architecture that was non-transformer based? So I went an entirely different direction than anyone else is going to try to build a model that would better predict the market. And for those of you guys who don't know me, this is just something that I like to do for fun, kind of just to learn. Okay, so I spent like an entire year trying to crack one of the millennial problems, which are these like really hard math problems. There's 7 of them. They're really hard. I tried to crack this one called Navier-Stokes. I used AI and GBT Pro and all this different stuff to try to solve this equation, with the thought process being that, at some point AI is going to solve this thing, and maybe we're at that point and you just need a little bit of hand-holding to get there. So I spent a year trying to do this. It was really fun. I learned a lot about physics and fluid dynamics and a lot of stuff that I didn't know anything about before that. Obviously, I had my 1 to 1 million journey where I tried to make $1 million in a year. I've tried just about every side hustle that, known to man at this point. I in general like experimenting and trying out different things like this to learn and grow and to push myself. And the idea of building my own custom architecture was probably the most exciting idea that I'd ever come up with, because it just seemed like literally an impossible challenge. One that I had like 99% chance that I was going to fail at, but if I succeeded at, was obviously like the coolest thing ever. And so I got started. I decided to go an entirely different direction again than most people do. Most people, what they'll do is they'll take an open source model like DeepSeek, etc., and then they'll use that as kind of like the foundation to build their own model. The reason they do that is because it's insanely expensive to train a transformer-based model. You need absurd amounts of compute and money in order to go that route. So I had all these limitations of where, I don't have absurd amounts of compute and money. And building a custom DeepSeek model wasn't going to get me to my goal. I had to try something that nobody else was trying in order to do what nobody else could do. And so instead of building an attention-based model like a transformer, I decided to build a state-based model. And state-based models are not a new thing. This is there's tons of examples of current state-based models like Mamba, etc. They're out in the wild, but they work wildly different from attention-based models. Attention-based models are limited by attention. They basically have like a giant notepad in front of them of everything that is in their memory. And it takes exponentially more and more compute in order to keep track of that notepad, which is why, if you ever have run an AI model for too long, you'll notice it goes kind of psycho. And that's because it's trying to maintain its attention across a massive amount of context on this giant notepad. And I always like to give the example, an attention-based model like a transformer like Claude, GBT, etc., is like if I tried to tell you my number and you wrote that number down on a piece of paper. It's basically impossible for you to forget that number because it's sitting on a piece of paper in front of you. But that's how you remember. You're an amnesia patient who can't remember anything in your own brain. Everything you remember is written on that paper. And the more things you try to remember on that paper, the fuller that paper gets to where you eventually don't have any more room to write down on that paper. State-based models are a lot more like how we think and how we remember. It's a lot more fuzzy and a lot more blurry, to where if I told you my phone number, you might memorize it in your brain, but then later when you go to recall that phone number, you might not remember it exactly. You don't have that pristine attention where it's written down on a paper. It's actually in your brain, and your brain's a little bit more fuzzy and it's not quite as precise. And that's why a lot of people don't pay attention to state-based models, is because of that kind of blurry function that limits it in a lot of capacities when it comes to a lot of the stuff we do with AI today. And so basically a year and a half ago, I went and set out to try to fix some of these flaws. The first one being trying to fix the memory issue, give a state-based model perfect memory. The second one being, how do I fix the second big flaw of state-based models, which is this thing called ICL, or in-context learning, where transformers excel, but state-based models really, really suck at it. And so I spent the last year and a half trying to fix those problems. And I got a lot further than I ever expected that I would be able to get. It basically came to the point where on paper, like everything was perfect. Everything looked good. I'd proven a lot. I'd done and accomplished a lot, but I wanted to prove that in reality. I needed some sort of test or some sort of thing that was undeniable that I'd built something awesome. And for me, that was trying to build a better market prediction mechanism and trying to build something that could get above that 65% accuracy threshold on predicting Bitcoin's direction any given hour, which is a really, really hard problem. But to me, it sounded like the exact kind of right impossible task where my architecture could excel versus a transformer and really kind of prove itself as something epic. Anyways, I don't have really a lot more to share on that, but that is my third wild card Hail Mary. Obviously crazy, and I'm not saying it's not crazy, guys. I'm like, that's an insane gamble bet. But the one that gives me the most energy and joy and motivation and excitement is that one, because it's so dang fun. And I've learned so much about machine learning and all this kind of stuff that I never knew before, actually trying to build it from scratch. But yeah, that's the setup. Those are my three paths that I'm hoping to, over the next year, find a way to make at least $1 million. I actually want to make a lot more than that, but at minimum $1 million to hit my goal, get me across that threshold so I don't have to shut off my YouTube channel and the OC and all that kind of stuff. And if you're curious about seeing my entire portfolio, or you want to see every time I buy and sell various tokens, as well as different weekly video market updates, currently the Obsidian Council is closed to new members, but you can sign up for the waitlist in the description of this video. Anyways, that's it. As always, now this was investment advice, and this is me telling you to do anything with your money. Obviously, I'm not your financial advisor, and you should always do your own research. If this video is helpful, make sure to hit that like button. And I'd love to hear, what do you guys think? Is this insane? Am I stupid for doing this? Or what are you guys' thoughts? And if you want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the little bell next to it to be notified each time I release a new video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.